So, I was recently appointed by my city councilman to work for the 2020 census because the 2020 census is considering re-implementing the question of citizenship, which is a question that hasn't been asked since the 1950s.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so we're trying to get the community to know that it's okay if they're not, and that no one can access that information. Like, it's a law. No one can access that information.
Does that ever scare you? Like, do you ever stop and think, what if I'm being lied to so that I could
I
report?
am scared. Yeah. I really hope that I'm not being lied to. This is one of the reasons why I did get involved, because I want to help my community as much as I can and help the Hispanic community and get them to go out and vote and show them that we have a freaking voice. And even if I'm just a small little precinct chair, that I'm their voice in my neighborhood. And that means a lot to me, because I grew up in that neighborhood. I'm trying to get them to understand and all become a community together so that we can all fight corruption together. We can all get the right people elected.
The person that was holding precinct chair prior to you is a person that had been holding it for a really long time, and you were 23 years old at the time that you beat him out. How did that make you feel in terms of beating someone that had been holding precinct chair for such a long time?
I felt really good because it was time for change, and we need somebody who can target the youth. The youth is not very active politically, so I felt like somebody needed to step in and change the game around the neighborhood.
Well, that's awesome. I'm so proud of you for taking on that role in your neighborhood. I know that ever since you were a little girl, you always talked about how you wanted to be somebody career-wise that would come back and work for the neighborhood. You've manifested what you've been talking about since you were a really little girl. So I'm really proud of you, Officer Hops.
Thanks. I have a whole strategy figured out. So you guys, if one day I run for something bigger, just remember my name. It's not Officer Hops.
I'm just kidding. I won't call you that again. I was 14 years old when I had Elizabeth, and I went through a really trying time where I had to make a decision. I was given an ultimatum to either have an abortion or have Elizabeth and not have the support of my father. It was very difficult, but I chose to give birth to Elizabeth, which also meant that I was in kind of isolation and I was being raised by a family that wasn't mine. It was a lot of changes for me, a lot of sacrifices that were made. Sacrifices that I'm very grateful that I endured and made it through on the other side. I am spiritual. I don't necessarily consider myself any one religion, really. I grew up in a Catholic home, and then I was Christian for a while, but then I just really started seeking out my relationship with God on my own. Elizabeth, what religion are you?
I'm a Christian evangelist.
And how do you feel about your mom identifying as someone that is more into spirituality than religion?
To me, it doesn't bother me. It's like more like whatever you choose to do and whatever I choose to do, and we both respect each other and our beliefs. So I'm cool with whatever religion or whatever spirituality or whatever you want to be or whatever anybody wants to be. I'm not a judgmental person over someone's beliefs.
Yeah, and I've never felt you be judgmental over my beliefs or trying to get me to change how I feel or anything like that. We're going to take a short break, and when we get back, we're going to get to everyone's questions from Instagram.
Return to the one. Return to the one.
We took the Q&A to Instagram, and we got a few questions from a lot of you that are hard-hitting. This might be a little emotional. What's one of the lessons your mom taught you that has helped you the most so far in life? That is coming from Paige Maura.
The thing that you've taught me is that even if it's you or whoever it is trying to say something to me or discourage me or say like, no, don't do that, or like not to listen and just follow my heart. Because growing up, there was a lot of things that I would go to my parents for approval, and I shouldn't have done that. I should have just gone with what I wanted to do instead of going to my parents for approval. And one day I told my mom, I should have just done what I wanted to do instead of listening to you guys. She was a young mom, the advice she she'd probably give me now is completely different from back then. But for example, I wanted to be a makeup artist so bad. All of high school, even in middle school, I would do like quinceañeras makeup. And I told her one day, I was like, Mommy, I want to do makeup. And one day I want to make my own brand. But it was more like, oh, there's too much competition for that. Like everybody wanted me to go to college, blah, 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 you know. But now we all know that college is the biggest hustle of the 21st century. I think I was just looking for too much approval from my parents versus me just doing what I wanted to do. I studied Montessori and I learned so many things about myself during the Montessori Institute. Children seek approval from parents. You just want to please your parents. You don't want to please yourself. And I've learned that I need to please myself. That's one of the biggest lessons she taught me in life, that it doesn't matter if she approves, if my grandma approves, whoever doesn't approve, I should just go for what I want to do.
And maybe it was more of me trying to be the parent and trying to be like, you gotta go to college, because that's what I was told. It was really important for me to convey that there's going to be times that I'm not going to agree with something, but it doesn't matter if I don't agree at all. You have to completely 100% and follow your heart, because that's what I've had to do with my own mom.
Yeah.
This one is from Spiritual Guerrera. Does she see the difference in how you are with Benny versus how you were with her? If so, has she ever felt a way about it?
If I see a difference, hell yeah, I see a difference. Okay, when my mom first told me she was pregnant, I don't know if she can feel it on the phone, but I was not feeling it at all. I just kept thinking, oh my gosh, I'm gonna see a child have a life that I always wanted and I never got. But the day that I came to California and Benny was born, when I held him, it was like a whole different game changer. The moment I held Benny, I just felt like, whoa, this is my son. And I'm like so possessive over him. And I always tell my mom, like, if you die, he's gonna be in good hands because he's gonna be with me. I can even breastfeed him if I want to.
She can.
He makes me like lactate.
Isn't that crazy? So she lactates because of him.
I don't feel jealousy at all. I felt jealousy while she was pregnant. Just the idea of it and the idea of having to see my mom do something she didn't do with me, that was very hard for me. I went through a really dark time and I would cry all the time and just think, oh my gosh, I'm gonna see something that I never had. Like I said, I met Benny and it was just like this connection between me and him. It actually brought peace to my heart because she got a second chance. I'm happy that she has that second chance, and I feel like I'm healing as I'm watching her be a mother to him that I didn't get to have, you know. As I'm seeing all of this happen, I feel comfort. He's brought peace to both my heart and her heart, because I had a grudge against my mom for a really long time. It wasn't until Benny was born that I let that grudge go and our relationship actually got better. Benny healed us. I don't feel angry. I don't feel jealous. I don't feel anger. I don't feel jealousy. I feel good. When I see how she is with him, I feel happy. It brings comfort to my heart. Is there anything I missed?
No, I think you got it. Latinx Therapy asks, what has been the toughest part about having a teen mom? Did you notice your mom was younger than other moms?
So the toughest part was her not being in my life the way I wanted her to be. There's a YouTube video we have together where it's like she goes off to college, you know. So I actually hated college and I didn't want to go to college because I just hated that my mom was never around. It would hurt and I really wish I would have had her around. And if my friends needed to talk to my mom or somebody, it was my grandma, the one that she was talking to, not to my mom.
I want to give a little bit of context. I, again, was pretty much disowned from my dad and most of my family. And I was disconnected from the family that hadn't disowned me. I was just completely on my own with Elizabeth and her grandparents. Like, her grandparents took me in. That was really hard for me because I went from living with one family to living to another. And even though her grandma was super gracious in taking me in, you can almost imagine what a displacement it was for a 14-year-old child to not have her parents in her life being supportive through one of the biggest events of her life, which is giving birth to another baby. So I felt very alone and very isolated. I had made a conscious decision of giving up everything I knew so that Elizabeth could live, because I was giving the ultimatum of an abortion. I was cognizant of that decision, but it didn't make the decision any easier. I was still very isolated without any support system of my own proper bloodline, and pretty much on my own to fend with my own personal emotions of what I was going through. I also lived some of the most horrific experiences I've ever lived in my life during the time that I lived with Elizabeth's grandparents, making it really hard to talk about, having my daughter hold a grudge on me for such a long time without her understanding the full scope of everything that was taking place is something that is really hard, and I really don't wish it on anyone. Then I made the decision to leave Elizabeth's father and move out. When I wanted to bring Elizabeth with me, she was 5 years old at the time. She begged me to not take her. Do you remember that?
I remember being on my knees.
She got on her knees and she said, "Please, Mommy, you can leave, but don't take me with you." When Elizabeth got on her knees and asked that was such a really challenging decision for me, because in my heart, I was like, but she's my daughter. Why can't she come with me? Why can't I just put my foot down and have her come with me? And of course, her grandma and her grandpa and her dad were extremely resistant of that. It was like I was up against a lot to try and take her away and have her live with me. But there was also a moment where I had to realize that I was working 3 jobs. And on top of that, I was about to start college. So I thought to myself, if I bring her with me, I'm going to be having her babysat the entire time, and I'm only going to pick her up to sleep. I could let my pride get in the way and be like, she's coming with me no matter what, and put my foot down, quote unquote, or I could try to let her live a semi-stable life. And that's what I chose. I chose to have her live a semi-stable life while I went to college 17 hours a semester and worked 3 jobs. The first one that started at 4 o'clock in the morning, was over by my first class, got out of class, went to wait tables all night, and then on the weekends, I was a customer service manager. I was literally working every single day of my life to try to put myself through college. It was such a double-edged sword for me, because what was I gonna do? College part was like, I really have to get ahead. I have to make something of myself and be what I'm supposed to be in order to provide for her. But at the same time, I'm giving up all of her childhood.
Now that I'm older, I don't hold any grudges because I'm able to put myself in both of my parents' shoes, becoming more, how do you say, like, compassionate about situations.
And then Latinx Therapy also asked, did any relatives try to take your role away as a mother when you were young? If so, how did you regain back the control? I mean, I think Elizabeth's grandmother really stepped in from the moment Elizabeth was born. I didn't get to hold her at all. She never got to be in my arms. That was always really hard for me. There was the moment where she came out of the womb and I locked eyes, and it felt like a really long time, but then her grandma came in and took her. And I think that was very indicative of what the future would essentially look like, in that I was always being policed in the way I would mother. And so to answer your question, how did I regain control? I didn't. I'd never regained that control. I think, if anything, our relationship has deepened and it has strengthened. And I played the role that I played in Elizabeth's life, and I continue to play, and she plays the role in my life that she continues to play. I'm super possessive with Benny. Like, he doesn't really get babysat a lot. If you see us when we go to events and stuff like that, Benny comes with me. I'm not the type of parent that has sleeping hours. He's with me. He's not gonna be with anyone else. And if I have to go and hustle, most of the time he's coming with me. Most of the time I'm asking, can Benny come? Can Benny come? Can Benny come? And if Benny can't come, almost always I won't go, or Alfonso won't go, or something will happen so that one of us stays with him. And I think part of that stems from the fear of someone trying to take Benny away, which has made life kind of challenging because I'm always with him. Raggedy Tiff asks, what was the bond between you and your mom growing up?
It was like a big sister. Makeup, photo shoots, wear her big dresses and heels.
Go
like,
shopping.
Do my makeup, go to IHOP, and she'd make me order my own hash brown because she'd be like, I'm not sharing my hash brown. So So it was like a big sister, little sister type of thing, which in a way I'm grateful for, because I told my mom a lot of things growing up, things that teenagers don't ask, or like pre-teenagers don't ask their parents, and I had that confianza, and even up to this day I still have that confianza with my mom. And there's a lot of things that she knows that only me, her, and one more person know. Have that ability to be like, mommy, I need to go to the doctor and I need you to have me checked. She'd be like, oh my gosh. Yes, okay, let's go. And it's just like things like that teenagers don't ask their moms, and they're afraid because they don't have that relationship with them. Things happen, you know, as teenagers. I'm sure all of y'all know we're in the 21st century. Nobody waits to get married anymore. And like my mom knew everything that was happening with me, and I feel like if it wasn't for her, then there was things that I could ask that I couldn't ask my grandma, because it was just weird. Even to this day, like talking to her about sex is weird. Or like drugs or whatever, you know, I'd be like, mommy, you know, this and that, and she'd just guide me towards the right direction. Same with my dad, same thing. Having teen parents, there's its perks as well as having the bad side to it. There's also good things that come out of it, I think.
She also asks, how do you feel having such an incredible mom by your side?
It's awesome how, like, I see her as a star, you know? She
Shut up.
Yes, if anybody follows me besides Raggedy Tiff on here, I posted an Insta story and I'm like, she's a star, and like I can see people idolize her, and it's just so cool, and I'm like, yeah, that's my mom. I mean, I don't talk about it at school, but then I'd have people tell me like, hey, I kind of low-key stalked your mom. Yeah, I kind of don't talk about that because I don't want people to think, oh, she's showing off, you know, or whatever. It's like they find out, then I'll brag about it after they found out, but if nobody knows, then I kind of just stay on the down low because I don't want anybody to be like, ay, la presumida esa. Once they find out, I'm like, oh yeah, my mom had this and my mom that. Oh girl, I saw a picture of her mom with Eugenio Derbez. I'm like, oh yeah, that's her homeboy. But it's cool, you know, it's really cool to have somebody like my mom be my mom.
Let's see. Paintbrush X Butterflies says, wondering what the teen years were like for you raising your daughter. What's the best, worst things about the age difference between you and your daughter? During the time that I was there until she was 5, it was fucking hard. I was working, I was going to high school, and I was also really involved in extracurricular activities in high school because it was my only outlet. Just keeping it real. It was like the only thing I could really plug in my creativity and feel somewhat normal and not alone. And it was actually my saving grace because I was surrounded by some incredible teachers that really stepped in for me and to help raise me. It was one of the most difficult things to try and do everything, like especially when she was sick at night. Oh my gosh, I remember like sometimes you being sick.
And I would always get sick.
Always.
I had asthma.
Always crying. She had cólicos. She had colic and she would cry and I would just cry with her. And the best thing about our age difference is what Elizabeth said, that I could really feel like I'm guiding her in areas where it really counts. I think sometimes for parents, it's really hard for them to really come to terms with the fact that, you know, around 13, 14, there's sexual energy that arises in young girls and boys. I think like sometimes parents are so far from that they forget what happens at that age. So for me, since I was so close to it, I really felt like I was able to navigate and also just develop a relationship where I really stress like, hey, you can tell me whatever it is you need to tell me and I'm not going to be upset. I'm just going to help you move forward and take care of whatever it is that's happening. The worst things about our age difference, I had to make really challenging decisions in terms of how I was going to move forward with life and try to educate myself and make money. That was taking away time from me actually watching her grow.
One thing I do remember, and it's like a pretty memory, is she would sometimes come to the house and put me to sleep, massage my head, and tell me like she was going to college because one day we were going to have a really big house and everything she was doing was for me. It still is.
Erica Mariero Man. I'm so sorry, Erica. I'm so sorry. She asks, how do you handle regret in past decisions? I had my child at a young age as well. He's now 12 and quite mature. Sometimes I think back and regret choices, decisions. How do you tackle that? So, Erica, I think that regret and shame or guilt are energy vibrations that are carrying a really low frequency. And it's so important for you to not live in regret and work really hard to try and make peace with what has taken place. And the way I always make peace with it is to know that every single mistake I've made, every single decision I've made is a decision that was for a greater purpose, and it's a decision that I attracted, and it is a decision that is helping me grow and helping me stretch, and that the outcome at the end of the day will always be positive. Whether I can see that in the moment or not, I will always know that when I'm in a better place, it was because that quote unquote mistake took place. I really, really want to encourage you to try and make peace with it, because living in regret, it's not allowing you to move forward in the space that you are right now. And all it's doing is really just weighing you down. So I want to just encourage you to try to dig deep and make peace. Our homegirl Diana Sanidi says, Linda, if you could talk to your 14-year-old self, what would you tell her?
This is where you play the song, everything's gonna be alright.
I would tell her, you are so much stronger than what you can possibly comprehend. You made the right decision in giving birth to your daughter. It was the ultimate sacrifice, but it was the best sacrifice that you will have ever made in life.
Everything is gonna be alright. And then you hear that tropical piano song.
I don't know what song you're talking about. Oh, Bob Marley?
Maybe, I don't know.
Basically, everything is going to be all right. You have the strength that it takes, and you have no idea where all of this is going to take you. And I still don't have any idea, honestly. Elizabeth, if you at this age could go back and speak to your mom at 14, what would you tell or ask her? This is such a good question.
Try a little bit more, even though you have a super busy schedule, to come more around.
That's fair.
Because I love my grandma. I'm glad that I somewhat got to see, like she said, have a stable life. Like, for example, if my mom would have took me, I would have never seen my mom, and I would have been with complete strangers.
Exactly.
And if I would have been with my dad, I mean, my dad was about that gang life, you know. And with my grandma, I grew up in a Christian home. Okay, so this is from Marlene XOX. She said, I've listened to her podcast before and it's fire. Love it. This question is for both. What is the most valuable lesson that you have learned from your daughter/mom that has had the most impact in your life? I feel like I've already answered this. What about you, mommy?
The decision to have her, like her being born and being who she is, she confirmed my decision of giving birth to her. And in essence, really, she taught me to trust my intuition despite the consequences, meaning despite losing relationships with my entire family, despite having to fend, on my own, essentially, of course, with the help of teachers and angels along the way. I didn't do everything on my own, but it was definitely a confirmation to always follow my heart, for sure, 100%. This question is from Judy_7AG, and she says, why didn't she move with you to LA?
When my mom moved out here, we were going through a really rough time. The whole custody battle between her and my dad, which I didn't want to choose either of them. I wanted my grandma. I just can't be without my grandma.
That's pretty much it. Those are all the questions. Do you have any last words you want to say?
I'm really proud of you and everything that you've accomplished and done. And even though I pressure her to move to Texas, I know that LA is where she needs to be. Yeah, I'm just really happy for you and everything that you're doing and the successful person you're becoming and you've become. You're a boss ass bitch. I don't know how else to say it. She's the boss. I'm proud when I say that's my mama.
Thank you so much for being on the podcast today and just for being an amazing daughter and an amazing big sister to Benny.
Always.
He loves you so much.
I know. Like, I know.
And I love you so much.
I love you too, mommy.
May the light within grow stronger. You heard?
You heard. Y'all want to follow me on Instagram? You know, it's at la.loma_. So LA.LOMA_. That's the part of Mexico where I grew up, because I was growing up back and forth from the US and Mexico as well. So yeah, just wanted to throw that in there. In case you're wondering, if you haven't already rated my mama, go to iTunes and give her 5 stars and show some love and leave that nice little review, you know what I'm saying?
You're so Texan. I can't with you sometimes.